Now, next topic, same chapter. Writing the same notes in another clef. Like middle C. Usually if you learned your instrument, for example, if your instrument is piano, you learn through the middle C method. You notice middle C was the first note you learned. Middle C on the treble clef, under the bass clef, they are both written on using a ledger line, but on the other way around, on the stave, yes, on the pause side of the stave. So for example, let's see here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If I have bass clef here, treble clef here, middle C on the bass clef is here, and on the treble clef here. Those are exactly the same notes. That's just how I write them. So you can see they are exactly the same. But for example, if I have D on the treble clef, I can write D on the bass clef as well. Why not? D. Interesting. What about E? Or better, and what about B on the bass clef? How do I write it on the treble clef? Below the line, the ledger line, the first ledger line, like that. B. Exactly the same notes, you see? B, B, D, D, C, C. Great. Now, exercise 4 on page 3. Tick or cross each box to show whether or not the notes are at the same pitch in each clef. So let's see the example they gave to us with middle C. So treble clef, middle C, bass clef, it's also middle C. Tick. Okay, now pause the video, solve all the exercise, and then come back to the video. Here you go. We have A on the bass clef and you have G on the treble, not the same pitch. We have F and F on both clefs, but it's not the same F. The F on the treble clef we have here is 1 octave above the F on the bass clef, so it's not the same pitch. They don't ask the note with the same name. They ask the exactly same pitch. Next, B and B. Great. Next, A and A, same pitch. Next, F and F, same pitch. D and E, G and B, no. Exercise 5. We write these notes in the bass clef, keeping the pitch the same. D, D. 1 note above the ledger line on the bass clef. Great. Pause the video and solve exercise 5 and 6, please. Here we go. Exercise 5, letter B. A. How do we write A here on the bass clef? On the top line. E. How do we write E on the bass clef? 2 ledger lines, note in the middle. D. We have the note B on the treble clef. How do we write B on the bass? Just like that. Exercise E. F. How do we write F? 2 ledger lines, note above the second. Exercise 6. We write these notes in the treble clef, keeping the pitch the same. So now we write on the treble clef. B. We have D on the bass. D. Touching the line. G. How do you do the G? 2 ledger lines below the second ledger line. E. First line. A. 2 ledger lines. Notice going through the second ledger line, the bottom ledger line. C, middle C, easy, middle C. Great. Now, circle true or false. All pitches written in the bass clef are lower than the pitches written in the treble clef. What do you mean? All pitches written in the bass are lower than the pitches written in the treble. That's false. Why? Because, for example, I can write A on the bass clef, and I can write G below A using the treble clef. So this is false. In the treble and bass clefs, middle C is written using one ledger line. That's true. In the bass clef, ledger lines are only used above the stave. Well, as we saw here, we can use ledger lines above or below the stave. The note middle C in the bass clef is in the same position as the note A in the treble clef. The note middle C in the bass, have a look here, is the same position as the note A in the treble. If you see here, let me see. A in the treble, middle C on the bass. Exactly, we have this note A here. The note in the same position. If you ignore the clefs and just write a note like that, without a clef, a note doesn't have a name, okay? So just write it like that on two different staves. Then you place a bass clef and a treble clef. This will be called A and this will be called C. So that's true. Exercise 8. For each pair of notes, work out whether the second note is higher, lower, or the same as the first note. Circle the answer. So let's see example here. We have E and E flat. Same pitch E, but the second is flattened. So the second is lower than the first. Okay. Now pause the video, pay lots of attention to this one, especially because we have a few accidentals here. And then come back to the video. Let's go. So we have A and A flat. A flat is lower than A. So just check whether the second note, okay. We have next C, B and A sharp. A sharp is lower than B. We have C and C sharp. C sharp is higher than C. We have E, E, same. And finally, we have F sharp and D sharp. D sharp is definitely lower. That's all for today. I hope you enjoyed. And next week, we're gonna work on rhythm. See you.